dive right, cause it can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
So who I think is the best team in the AFC? I still think it's the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills have had two kind of shocking losses in the NFL. I think the first loss to Pittsburgh, it's one of the most bizarre world things that has happened in the NFL season this year. How did that Pittsburgh football team beat this Buffalo Bills football team? And then I think Tennessee, I thought the Buffalo Bills kind of beat themselves in that game. I think a couple things went wrong. And then also you had the one time Josh Allen fumbles on a quarterback sneak, from on a 4th and 1. It just happened to be in that game, and the Bills happened to lose in that way. And Tennessee obviously played out of their mind. Derrick Henry he's like, I thought maybe Derrick Henry might slow down this year, to be honest with you. I thought the wear and tear and all that would get to him. It's not happening. He's still and he's still unbelievable. So I still think it's the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you look at them top to bottom, their offense is unbelievable. Josh Allen is special. I think you and I have been one of the people who were pretty early on the Josh Allen train at the start of last year when he started playing well. Like, hey, this looks different. Like, this guy is so talented and he's finally put it together. They're able to run the football a bit better this year, not as well as I would like. And I that's where I think Brian Daboll is a little bit overrated. I feel like he's a very good play caller, but I feel like his inability to get the run game going unless Josh Allen's a part of the run game, and I think a lot of that has to do with how special Josh Allen is as a runner, is a problem for this team at times. I think it puts too much on Josh Allen having to drop back each play and make something happen. But they have obviously fantastic receivers. They have 4 good ones. Stephon Diggs is terrific. Emmanuel Sanders has been very good. Cole Beasley, he's also a good wide receiver. And then Gabe Davis is good. So top to bottom, they're very good like that. But I think the best thing about the Buffalo Bills right now is how good their defense is playing. It's been a massive improvement from last year. And the Buffalo Bills defense last year had 2 main issues. They didn't have a very good defensive line or a big defensive line, so they struggled to stop the run. And their corner outside of Tre'Davious White was a giant question mark. It was Josh Norman. It was Levi Wallace. And in and out, Josh Norman wasn't a great fit for their system. But you look at it now. Josh Norman was a good fit for their system. He's just not the same player he used to be. Sorry, I was thinking about Josh Norman at Washington for a second. But the point is, if you look at it now, they've solved both of those issues. Levi Wallace is quietly playing really, really well as a starting corner on the other side of Tre'Davious White. He's playing really, really well. And then their defensive line, it's deep. They go about 8 deep. I mean, you go down the list. Greg Rousseau, who we talked about last week when we talked about the Bills, he's playing terrific. Mario Addison is really, really good. He makes an impact. Jerry Hughes is an ageless wonder. He's absolutely outstanding. Star Lotulelei, who we mentioned we felt like Buffalo was missing when he opted out last year in the run game. He's still a stout piece in the interior of their defensive line. You go down the list, it's a deep physical defensive line, and I think it's made them a lot better in the run game. The 2 safeties are obviously fantastic. Poyer and Hyde, I think they're the top 5 safety duo in the NFL. They're both really, really good, and they do every single thing very well. I've always compared them to Ward and Tart with the 49ers. I think they're both kind of the same way, kind of under talked about, but both players are really, really sound. They do every single thing really well, and they can do it all, and they're very good. And then their linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds looks healthier this year. He looks faster this year. I thought his health was a little bit of an issue. He was inconsistent with his play last year, but he's been terrific. And so I think overall, I know there's a lot of great teams in the AFC, but I still would take the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I'm again, that's who I thought or predicted to win the Super Bowl this year. They were kind of my team going into it, and everything from what we've seen so far is kind of indicating that they're even, I would say, a little better than last year. I know they have 2 losses already this year, and they had 3 last year, but Josh Allen has still looked great. You mentioned running the ball. Josh Allen helps with that a lot. Defense has improved drastically. I know they allowed a lot of points to the Titans, but they did pretty great against the Chiefs offense, who, although they have been struggling, they still have Patrick Mahomes, so you can't discount them on that. But I think the main thing with them that's been surprising, I would say, is their O-line seems to not be as good as it was last year. Seems like maybe this is just me, but Josh Allen's been getting pressured more. And he's someone who, even if he gets pressured more, it's not that big of an issue because you're almost happier with him outside of the pocket because he can pretty much throw from any platform. He has a huge arm, so the whole field's still open. And his rushing abilities probably top five for a quarterback. Now, he's not close to Lamar or Kyler in his, start-stop acceleration, just being able to pick up yards like that. But, I mean, he's hurdled people. He's hurdled Anthony Barr standing up his rookie year. He hurdled L'Jarius Sneed this year. He's powerful, strong. He'll put his body on the line. So you like that. So I'm not too concerned about him getting pressured more. And then Dawson Knox emerging as a tight end I would almost say this year's like Bobby Tunyon, just kind of came out of nowhere and has been performing well. And then obviously I think the receiving core is great. Emmanuel Sanders has been a godsend for them. He has been incredible. He's developed as their wide receiver 2 now, and they still have Beasley in the slot, and obviously Diggs is an alpha number 1 receiver. So their offense, I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. And one thing that you just need in the postseason is the teams that, you can have a really well-rounded team. And even if you have a better team on paper, just having Josh Allen, who at this point, I think you have to include him in your top 5 quarterback list. Just having that is such a trump card because he can just take stuff out of nowhere. And you don't really feel out of the game if you do have him. So again, I'm with you with Bills being the best AFC team. And overall, I'm a little disappointed in the AFC this year. I thought coming in, the AFC would be definitely better than the NFC. But so far, you look at the top 8 teams, I'd say probably 5 of them are probably NFC. And that is not something I would have expected. The Chiefs and Browns being kind of the 2 teams that have been not as good as people thought they would be, not as good as we thought they would be. So it's a little disappointing to see that, but I think it's safe to say those are the best team.
Not just Chiefs and Browns, though. Miami has been disappointing. New England, I would say New England hasn't disappointed, but they're shown to be a younger team that just struggles to close out close ball games late. They make a lot of mistakes that beats themselves. Denver, to me, has been a little bit disappointing. I expected their defense to play a lot better under Vic Fangio. That's been disappointing. Indianapolis has been disappointing. There's been quite a few teams that we expected to be better and that have struggled to start this season. But one more thing to touch on, because I think we both agree on the Bills. I did want to mention why I don't think Baltimore is the best team in the AFC. Obviously, Baltimore is probably the consensus pick right now. They're coming off 2 straight, super juiced wins that would get people super juiced up, right? I do agree with one thing with Baltimore. Lamar Jackson might be the best, playing the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I think there's an argument to be made that he is the best player currently in the NFL right now in this season. That doesn't mean I think he's an overall better player than a Mahomes or an Aaron Rodgers, but he's playing better than them right now. When you add in his ability to run and what he's doing in the pass game, which is out of this world. I mean, we've been trying to tell you the last year or so, this guy's a much better passer than he's been given credit for. And we're seeing it this year because the guys around him, like Hollywood Brown, have been playing a lot better. I don't think Baltimore is just that good of a football team around him. I think their offensive line has played better, but I think I don't want to overrate their offensive line beating up on a Chargers team where I think their depth at defensive line is an issue. And I think they match up horribly with the Baltimore Ravens because 1, they don't have the troops to be able to stop the run, and 2, Brandon Staley wants to play too high, and he doesn't want to stop the run. He wants to stop the pass first. And when you combine those 2 things where you don't have personnel and schematically you're not that invested in stopping the run, and you go up against the Ravens run game, you're going to get buzzsawed, and that's what happened. I think their defense, Wink Martindale, has done an incredible job adjusting and being able to make do with the fact that they have quite a few guys off. I mean, Owe has been fantastic as a rookie at all of that, but I still think their defense is maybe missing a couple things in their front 7 that I think will ultimately get maybe a little more exposed in the playoffs. I don't have any questions about Lamar Jackson. I don't have any questions about Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. I just have a couple questions, especially with the offensive line injuries and all of that and the running back injuries, when those things are going to catch up to Baltimore. And they almost did at the beginning of the season. They almost lost to Detroit. They lost to the Raiders. They lost to some teams who maybe aren't on paper, supposedly good teams, but and they won those games because they have Lamar Jackson and he's special and he's unbelievable. But that's why I think Buffalo is better than Baltimore.
You could throw the Colts game in there too, where Lamar obviously he had like 85% completion, over 400 yards. So yeah, that's insane. And I'm with you. Like, I would say Lamar, even if he doesn't win it, you can't tell me he's not the most valuable player in the league, because if you took him off this Ravens team, I think they would be in contention for a top 3 pick. I really do. It's kind of similar to what the Seahawks had with Russell Wilson, where you feel like, like the Niners are better, the Cardinals are better, but the Seahawks have Russell Wilson, so he's kind of the equalizer. That's how I think Lamar is what he is to the Ravens, is what Russell Wilson's been to the Seahawks for the last 7 years.
I think this is a great comparison. I think Lamar's season this year, honestly, in terms of people getting their eyes really open to how good of a passer he is, reminds me a little bit of, you remember in Russell Wilson in 2015? The Seahawks started off maybe a little bit slower, and Russell Wilson led the league in touchdowns, I believe, in 2015. And people were like, oh my God, Russell Wilson's way better from the pocket, and his ability to throw is way better than we've been giving it credit for. We've just been saying beast mode, beast mode, beast mode the entire season, the last 3 years. And I think that's what's happening a little bit this year. Like, everybody was enamored with Lamar's running ability. They didn't take it into account that the Ravens offense schematically in the pass game isn't the best, and those receiving options weren't great. And now that Hollywood Brown is playing very, very well, Mark Andrews is unbelievably solid, and Lamar has gotten even better, you're seeing, wow, Lamar Jackson is a really good passer. And when you combine his passing and running, he's one of the 5 or 6 elite quarterbacks in the NFL.
Definitely. So that's the AFC. We said the Bills, they're the best AFC team. Ravens, they have a great record, but their roster is just not as good, although Lamar has been the most valuable player, debatably. I'd put him there. Vish, you'd probably have him in your top 2 or 3 as well. So that's the AFC. But